Yesterday we have discussed transformation, and if you remember from the last discussion, transduction. Okay, so this is here. So there are three ways of horizontal gene transfer: either transformation, transduction, and conjugation. We have left with these two. We have already covered transformation. In transformation, when a bacterial cell died and it released the DNA in surrounding environment, so ultimately what will happen, the DNA will be fragmented. And these fragments can be uptaken by some other bacteria which is present nearby, and there is a rule, means there is some competence should be there, means there are some competence factors or proteins which help in binding of these free fragments in the environment to this particular recipient cell, so that it will uptake this particular fragment. For example, this fragment denoted with red color, and this is then inside. When it is inside the recipient cell, it is known as exogenote because it is coming from outside, and the blue color section, which is the chromosome of recipient bacteria, is known as endogenote. What will actually happen then, either there is two possibilities: one, either it will be degraded or it will be integrated into the endogenote to make a uh, recombinant bacteria. So this is, there are two possibilities: either it will be degraded, either degradation, or the genetic recombination. So both way possible. Then we have discussed what is the mechanism behind this transformation. So the first of all, the transformation was discovered in 1928 by a scientist called Griffith, and Griffith did this experiment. He took two strains of bacteria. One is called 3S, and one is called second R. Question has been asked directly from this text, so you need to remember this, that actually it was third S and it was second R. R for rough, S for smooth. So if it is having some smooth appearance, because there were two strains, one is S strain, one is R strain. Out of these, this S strain, though smooth, but because it is having smooth colonies, shiny appearance, because of one polysaccharide coat. It was not known at that time in 1928. This was unknown, but later it was found that this polysaccharide coat is actually making these strains smooth, and it is also responsible for the virulence. Means due to this presence of this capsule, this polysaccharide coat, these S strains were virulent, and these both were the strains of Streptococcus pneumoniae. Is also known as Diplococcus pneumoniae because it is having a Diplococcus phenotype, because the two cells, two cocci are joined together. So Diplococcus. But the second strain was R2, and this is having rough appearance because it was having a mutation in the gene which is encoding for this particular coat, and therefore they are having these rough appearance. And what is the benefit of having this mutation? Due to this mutation and due to the absence of this coat, they were actually non-virulent. They will not cause any disease, and due to which the mouse will not die. So he took the two strains of bacteria. One is a smooth strain, actually third S, and second R, out of which third S was virulent. So when injected inside the mice will die. Second R, if injected directly into the mice will survive because it is having non-virulent phenotype. When if you heat kill the S strain, third S, and then inject into the mice will survive because it will disintegrate all the cells, and the DNA will come into the solution. So nothing will happen to the mice. Mice will survive. If you do the autopsy of the dead mice, of the mice, which is after the treatment of these strains of bacteria, it will survive and you will recover no bacteria, because actually bacterial cells will be disintegrated after heating. Ultimately, what will you do in the transformation principle? This was a surprise because Griffith makes the two strains together, in which he took these heat killed and these live second R strains. And when mice actually dies and he did autopsy of the dead mice, he was able to recover the third S strain, and these live strains, actually live bacteria, he was able to recover. So what it signifies that it is showing the transformation when these cells, which are shown here in red color, when they are heat killed, they will release their DNA into the surroundings, so that they will be uptaken by these fragments will be uptaken by the blue colored cells, which are second R actually, and they will transform these second R cells to into the virulent form, and this virulent third S forms will actually kill the mice. Later, after so many experiments by treating them with RNAs, proteinase, or DNAs, it was shown that when you treat the sample with the DNAs, the transformation will not take place. It is showing that it was actually DNA which is responsible for the transformation. Means the fragment of DNA is moving from these heat-killed third S strains into the second R strain. So they proved that if there is no DNA, there is no transformation, means the DNA is responsible for these transformation experiments. So actually they have proved that DNA is the material which is actually moving from one cell into the another cell. But scientific community is having one problem, that the scientists were at that time in 1928 or around 1930s, they were not able to accept the fact that the DNA is the genetic material, because at that time proteins were regarded as genetic material. Okay, so after 8 years, Hershey and Chase performed another experiment using bacteriophages, and they finally proved that this is actually the DNA, which is the genetic material of any cell. Finally, in 1952, and after that, the four scientists, Watson, Crick, Murray, Wilkin, and Franklin, these two scientists make the X-ray structure from the X-ray diffraction pattern of the DNA, and they make a model of the DNA, double-stranded DNA, and finally prove that DNA is the genetic material, and it is its structure as well as afterwards the genetic code and everything, means the transcription translation processes has been decoded. Right. So this is how people understand that the transformation is actually happening, and DNA is the actual material which is being transferred from one cell into some another cell. Now, there is one mechanism by which these DNA fragments during transformation, moving from the surrounding environment into the uptaken by some live cell or bacterial cell. So there is two ways, means either suppose these DNA fragments are present in the surrounding environment of a bacterial cell, when they are uptaken by the bacterial cell, either they will integrate, this is called stable transformation, means they will be integrated into the bacterial chromosome, become a part of this chromosome, or otherwise they will be degraded. And the transformation can actually involve both either DNA fragments or the complete plasmids. So plasmids are extra chromosomal material which are present in bacteria and also in some eukaryotes, right? So these plasmids can also uptaken by some of the bacterial cells from surrounding environment, and the same process is termed as transformation. Now, we are interested in knowing that what is the mechanism by which these fragments from the surrounding are uptaken by the bacterial cell, how this is possible. So first of all, these double-stranded DNA fragments, suppose this is a double-stranded molecule, here it is denoted with red color, here it is denoted with blue color, otherwise it is DNA, and there are two strands, so obviously it is double-stranded. So first of all, they will bind over some DNA binding proteins which are present over the bacterial surface, and they will help in adhering this double-stranded fragment of DNA to the bacterial cell. Then there are other sets of enzymes and proteins which help them in moving from surrounding into the bacterial cell cytoplasm. And you are able to note this, that there is two strands, but when it is moving inside, there is only one strand. The other strand is actually degraded. So this degradation of the second strand is actually the process which is performed by some exonucleases which are present in the plasma membrane here, as I will show you in the next diagram. So ultimately, this one fragment or so one strand of DNA will be inside the cytoplasm of the bacterial cell, and it will be integrated by homologous recombination into the bacterial chromosome. once integrated successfully, it first of all, it will make a hetero means it is having one fragment, one strand which is normal, but other strand which is coming from outside, uh, heteroduplex. But ultimately what will happen, the replication will take place, and DNA repair enzymes will remove this particular green strand and they will replace it with the complementary strand. And therefore this particular DNA which is coming from outside will be stably integrated into the bacterial chromosome. So this is how the transfer of DNA fragment is actually happening from one bacterial cell into the another. And this is the process of transformation. This process of transformation is different in gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, though some of the enzymes are very common, as we have discussed yesterday. So this EC and this FA protein, which are present in the plasma membrane, they will make a channel through which the single-stranded DNA out of this double-stranded DNA will come into the cytoplasm, and then RAC protein will bind to the single-stranded DNA, and they will help in the integration of this single-stranded DNA into the bacterial chromosome. But this is a pulling process, so it will use some of the energy of ATP energy to pull the fragment of DNA into the bacterial cell cytoplasm. And also there is a name is not known, but some exonucleases or nucleases which will degrade the other strand of the DNA when it will be transported inside the bacterial cell cytoplasm. Now here it is showing that actually this is a gram-positive cell, as you can see from the structural differences. So this is a plasma membrane and this is the cell wall, which is thick. And here also this is plasma membrane, this is peptidoglycan cell wall. So this is the structure of a gram-positive bacteria. As we know, in gram-positive bacteria, there is no outer membrane, whereas gram-negative bacteria is actually having an outer membrane or an capsule which differentiate these two type of bacteria, gram-positive from gram-negative. And therefore, gram-positive and gram-negative are having little differences in the transformation process. So suppose this is some DNA binding protein, then this is a channel through which this DNA will come into the cytoplasm and ultimately integrated into the bacterial chromosome. This is for Bacillus subtilis, which is a gram-positive bacteria. It is also showing that there is a nuclease, and for nuclease, which will degrade one strand, there is some protein COM-GC and COM-EA, which will help in binding this double-stranded fragment of DNA to the bacterial cell. And there are two sets of protein, COM-EC and FA, which will help in translocation of, which will make a channel-like structure, as you can see here also. They will help in transfer of the single-stranded DNA molecule that is actually called exogenote to come inside the bacterial cytoplasm. And then it will be integrated into the bacterial chromosome by homologous recombination, right? Now, what is the difference? How it is different in gram-negative bacteria? In gram-negative bacteria, as you will see in the next slide. So in gram-negative bacteria, actually there is a outer membrane along with this inner membrane, that is plasma membrane and peptidoglycan cell wall. They are also having an outer membrane, and this outer membrane, which is having this pilus, pilus is having some proteins. Pilus, for example, pilus is made up of pillin protein. So pillin E protein is responsible for binding of this double-stranded DNA to this, and it will help in moving this double-stranded fragment to the one channel, that is pillin Q protein. And through this channel, this double-stranded DNA molecule will move into the periplasmic space, the space between outer membrane and inner membrane. In the cytoplasmic space, in the periplasmic space, some nucleases are present, and these nuclease enzyme will degrade one of the strand of the double-stranded DNA fragment, and one strand, that is single-stranded DNA, will move through the same channel, and another protein which is actually helping in the translocation of this DNA fragment. So this COM-FA is actually DNA translocase, as you can read from the previous slide. So this is a DNA translocase enzyme which will help in translocation of single-stranded molecule of DNA inside the bacterial cell. So little difference, but process is almost same in gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, but translocation is being taking place between closely related species of bacteria because of these competence factors, which are proteins which are present over the cell membrane and helping binding the double-stranded DNA molecule fragments. Right. Okay, so then there are three processes. Either this incoming single-stranded DNA, when it is in the cytoplasm of the bacterial cell, either gram-positive or gram-negative, either it will be degraded. So these degraded, so the nucleotides will be freed, and these nucleotides can be used as building blocks of another new DNA during DNA replication process. Okay, if it is integrated, and it will undergo some homologous recombination process, and you can see this will be integrated into the bacterial chromosome. Or there is a third process during DNA damage. Either bacterial cell will remove one segment of the DNA where it is damaged, and it will incorporate the incoming DNA, single-stranded DNA, if it is having sequence homology, and thus it will undergo some homologous recombination. And here you can see this blue segment, which is coming from outside, will be used during DNA repair. So either way possible. Now there is second process of uptake of DNA from one bacteria into the another bacteria. So with the help of some viruses, these viruses and bacteria are called bacteriophages, means phage or viral particles which specially infect the bacterial cells. And they're very specific. For example, lambda phage is having a host E. coli. P1 is also infecting E. coli. P22 bacteriophage is actually infecting the Salmonella species, Salmonella typhimurium, for example. So they are having specific viruses which will infect the specific bacterial cell species. So it will ensure that the DNA fragment will be transferred between the related species of bacteria, right? So when this bacteriophage will infect the previous bacterial cell, it will uptake some of the genes of that particular bacteria. And when it infect a new cell or new bacterial cell of the same species or some related species, it will transfer that segment of DNA which is carrying some genes into the new bacteria. Then this DNA fragment can be integrated into the bacterial chromosome, and this integrated form is known as prophase. So you need to remember there is a difference between prophase and episome. Episome also we have studied. HFR we have discussed. So HFR is if plasmid is integrated into the bacterial chromosome, then it is called HFR. Prophase is if the bacterial genome, which is not actually the bacterial gene, which is not actually the phage genome, it is a bacterial genome which is coming from some previous bacteria. As I will show you one more diagram in which it is more clear actually. So here, so suppose, so this is a generalized infection in which a bacteriophage is infecting some bacterial cell, right? So suppose this is bacteria A. When it is infecting this bacteria, it will integrate, it will release its DNA into the inside the cytoplasm of this bacteria. And finally, what will happen next? It will lead to the disintegration of or the fragmentation of bacterial genome, bacterial chromosome. Now you will note that when the assembly will take place, I want to zoom in because this is important. So suppose you remember these rods are actually bacterial chromosome. So they are formed from this bacterial chromosome, whereas this fast double-stranded DNA is making its copies, means after replication, it will make more copies. Now when assembly will take place, so these proteins, these capsid proteins will make this particular structure, and then the DNA molecules will be stored inside this head structure of the bacteriophage. Now you note that these curves are actually these DNA are the replicated versions of the phage DNA, whereas these rods are actually the bacterial chromosome. Now, what can happen? By mistake, one of the fragment, which is actually the bacterial genome, will come inside one head of these bacteriophages because they are assembling in large number inside the bacterial cell. So by mistake or by chance, some of the fragments of the bacterial chromosome can come in and they can be packed inside these bacteriophages. Now you note that this particular bacteriophage, which is having the bacterial chromosome, when in fact, when this lysis will take place, so they will all released outside the bacterial cell after the cell lysis. And this particular bacteriophage, which is actually having the genes of bacteria, the fragment of bacterial genome, will then infect the next bacterial cell. So this is bacteria A, this is bacteria B. For simplicity, you can annotate these. So this is A, this is completely different. This is a new bacteria because after lysis, this A will be disintegrated. This will be lysed by the bacteriophage, and when it will release outside the bacterial cell. And now you note here that this is that particular bacteriophage which is actually having the bacterial chromosome, not the phage genome. So it will be infecting this particular new cell of bacteria, that is B, and then suppose this it is the similar species or same species of bacteria, then it is having the same genes, means some genes will be very similar. For example, it is having some gene A, and the same gene or the one allele of same gene is present over this particular bacterial fragment of DNA. Then they will undergo homologous recombination and they can exchange the genes by this homologous recombination process. If this is integrated inside the bacterial chromosome, then this particular bacteria is said to be means it will be modified, its expression will change. So this integration of the bacterial DNA into the recipient chromosome will make a completely new bacteria, which is having some different phenotype, right? So actually there is a name for all these bacteria, these recipient cells, after they have integrated the incoming genes or fragment of DNA inside their chromosomes. So I will show you in this slide. In all the three processes, they are having different names. So please do not get confused. Always, if it is coming from outside, then the bacterial fragment is known as. So if this is the process of transformation, this is transduction, this is conjugation. In one diagram, this is summarizing all the three processes. So actually, I'm interested in transduction because we are discussing this right now. So during transduction, what will happen when this particular bacterial cell will lyse? It will, one of the bacteriophages will have the fragment of the bacterial genome, that is bacterial chromosome. And suppose this bacterial chromosome is blue in color, right? So this particular bacteriophage, which is having this blue colored fragment of bacterial chromosome, will be integrated into some new bacteria. Then the recipient bacteria will be called as transductant. In the process of transduction, this is called transductant. In process of transformation, it is called transformant. And the process of conjugation, if the genes are coming by conjugation process and they are integrated inside the bacterial chromosome, then they are called as transconjugates. So this is the same terms, but actually these recipient bacteria are evolving due to different processes. Therefore, they are given different names for the recipient bacteria, which are able to integrate the genes from some other bacteria by either of these three processes. If you have a query, please ask me. Otherwise, I will continue. I hope this diagram is very clear because it is showing with very much clarity. If you are having an old edition of this Pathfinder, actually I am having this as seventh edition, I think. In previous editions, this is wrongly drawn actually. In this particular edition, it is correctly drawn that it is showing that this particular genome of bacteria is able to assemble inside the bacteriophage. And when this particular bacteriophage is infecting a new bacteria, then it will able to integrate the gene inside the new bacterial genome. Right, so now, transduction can be of two types. One is called generalized, one is called specialized. Generalized meaning because this fragment, when this type of bacteriophage will infect a new bacteria or infect a bacteria in general, it can assemble, it can uptake any of the genes randomly. So this is called random or generalized transduction. Whereas if it is very special set of genes, it is able to carry from one bacterial cell into the another bacterial cell, then this particular type is called specialized. So we will discuss both generalized as well as specialized. So we had discussed this yesterday that two scientists had discovered this process transduction in 1951 in Salmonella typhimurium. This is called Lederberg and Ginder. So these two scientists, Lederberg and Ginder, in 1951 in Salmonella typhimurium have discovered the transduction process, which is actually with the help of bacteriophage, they are able to transfer the genes from one bacterial species or one bacterial cell to another bacteria. Now, so it will give you the reason why it is between the very closely related species of bacteria, because the bacteriophages are always very specific. For example, P1 will only infect the E. coli cells, and P22 is infecting the Salmonella species. So similarly, the lambda-phage is also having the E. coli host generally. So this is the reason why this is happening between closely related species of bacteria. In generalized transduction, it is of two types, abortive and complete. So what it means? Abortive means refers to the transient expression of one or more donor genes without formation of recombinant progeny. So as you can see here, when this particular bacteriophage will infect a new cell, so this is cell B actually from the last diagram. So it will move its DNA inside the new cell, and either it will remain inside the cytoplasm, it will not integrate into the bacterial chromosome, therefore it will showing its expression for a limited period of time, and then it will be lost by degradation process. So this is called abortive, whereas the second type is called complete transduction, because complete sense it is able to integrate inside the bacterial chromosome, and when this bacterial chromosome will replicate, it will replicate along with this bacterial chromosome. Therefore, it will be stably maintained inside the recipient bacteria or transductant. So, complete transduction characterized by the production of stable recombinants, right, that inherit the donor genes and retain the ability to express them. DNA remain double-stranded during the transfer, and both the strands are integrated into the endogenome. Now, what is the difference? We have recently discussed one process called, so one process is known as transformation. Transformation, in the transformation process, we have noted that when this will go inside the bacterial cell, out of the two strands, only one will move, right? So single-stranded DNA will be able to integrate into the bacterial chromosome. But what is the difference now? The difference in this process of transduction is that both the strands of DNA will be able to integrate into the bacterial chromosome. So you need to note this. In abortive transduction, the donor DNA fragment does not integrate into the endogenome and also not replicated. And among the progeny of the original transductant, only one bacteria will contain the donor DNA fragment. Suppose if it is not replicated because it is present outside the bacterial chromosome, so it is not having origin of replication. Therefore, it will not be replicated. So when this bacteria divide, so only one progeny, one daughter cell will receive this particular fragment of DNA which is coming from outside, right? And the other will have only this bacterial chromosome because it will be able to replicate. Therefore, only some cell will have this, only one cell, the daughter cell will have this particular uh, DNA fragment which is coming from outside. The frequency of abortive transduction is typically 1 to 2 order of magnitude greater than that of frequency of complete transduction. So actually, in most of the cases, this is the case. And this is 1 to 2 order of magnitude greater, having greater frequency than this complete transduction. It means that complete transduction or the integration of the this particular DNA fragment from outside is very, very less when compared to this particular abortive type. So this double-stranded DNA will be stable, can be maintained inside the double-stranded, so can be maintained inside the cytoplasm of the bacterial cell, but only one daughter cell will receive this particular DNA. And mostly this is the case, the abortive type is more pronounced. So generally it is 1 to 2 order of magnitude. What it mean? So it means that this first type will have a frequency 1 to 2 order of magnitude, means either 10 to 100, right? So 10 to 100 times more when compared to this one. So this is one. This is 10 to 100 times more probable. So the probability of abortive transduction is more, indicating that most cells infected by the generalized transducing phases do not produce the recombinant progeny. Right. Now there is a second type that is called specialized transduction. In this process, in this type, I will show you first one diagram. So this is actually showing the specialized transduction. What it is showing, what is this diagram is depicting. So let me. Oh. Right. So this is a phage lambda DNA. In the lambda phage, this DNA is a double-stranded molecule, and it is made up of 48,502 base pairs, right? And it is having a sequence where it is able to integrate into the bacterial chromosome. So actually it is showing that the lambda phage, which is having host, the host is E. coli. So in E. coli, this is the bacterial chromosome. This is the phage, bacterial phage DNA. So first of all, we will see how this will look like. So here. So this is the phage DNA, bacteriophage lambda genome. This is a double-stranded circular molecule, but it can be linearized. It is possible because it is having one specific sequence that is called cohesive ends or cos sites, which are 12 base pair repeats by which it can make this double-stranded circular molecule. It is having some set of genes, right? So from here you will see this is integration site from where it will integrate inside the bacterial chromosome. This is excision sites, XIS for excision, means it will remove out of so you can see that there is a little difference in the integration and excision part of this bacteriophage genome. Also, there are some important genes which are C3 and C1 CRO C2, and this will remain the order. Actually, this has been asked in one of the competitive examinations. That's why I'm showing you the order of this particular genes. So always C3 and C1 CRO C2, they are present in this order only. And then there is some genes which are required for the tail formation, head formation, and they are required for lysis, right? So there are different type of genes which will help in assembly process. So the head region will be formed by these particular genes. These will make the proteins for capsid. these genes will make proteins for the tail region of the complete bacteriophage lambda. Right. So the next is now in the second diagram, I will show you it is here actually. Open. So see here actually no other information, but it is actually showing the cause sites. So these are called cohesive ends. So as you can see, these are having some overlapping regions. So that's why they can help in the circularization of this particular genome in bacteriophage lambda. These are called sticky ends and called as commonly known as cohesive sites or cohesive sequences. Therefore, for short cause sequences. And there are the same genes C3 and C2, sorry, CRO C2 and C3 and C1 CRO C2. So there are 5 important genes in lambda phage genome which will be required. Along with these, there are other genes. There are sites for excision, integration, and attenuation. Okay. So now we will move back to the Pathfinder. So this circle is actually having so many genes for head region, for tail region, and this is the integration region where with the help of which it is able to integrate into the bacterial genome. So bacteriophage lambda genome will be integrated inside the bacterial genome by these sequences. So this is for phage, P for phage. So POP dash, the bacterial DNA will have BOB dash, and these are called attenuation sites or attachment sites at sites. So when the homologous recombination will take place, so it will be integrated into the bacterial genome, and it is showing that in bacterial genome there are 2 genes which are present at the site where this particular genome of virus will be integrated. So left hand side it is showing the galactose, and the right hand side it is showing the biotin synthesis gene in bacterial genome. Once the lambda phage DNA is integrated into the bacterial genome, still the galactose and biotin synthesizing genes are present on the 2 ends of the bacterial chromosome, as you can see here also. Now, this is okay. So bacteriophage will infect the bacterial cell. It will release its DNA into the cytoplasm of the bacterial cell. It will be integrated into the bacterial chromosome and stably integrated. So this is called as prophase, since this lambda DNA is integrated into the bacterial chromosome. Now, what will happen when this will detach from this particular, when it will come out of this? So because this is having so there are 2 possibilities. If everything is correct, then if it is a correct excision process, then it will be removed in the same form in which it was integrated inside the bacterial chromosome. But most of the time, actually, it will remove by incorrect excision process. So during incorrect excision, what will happen? It will have some of the genes of bacteria either, and because the 2 genes are having more probability of coming inside the lambda DNA, which are present on the 2 ends of this attachment site. So either this galactose or biotin synthesizing gene or the galactose metabolizing genes will come inside this defective lambda phage DNA, as it is showing this galactose, right? So this gal gene is coming inside the lambda DNA, and then it will be packed again inside the head region and then infect the some other bacterial cell. So it will transfer this galactose metabolizing gene from one bacterial cell into some another bacterial cell. But now the story is not ended here. Actually, there are two probabilities. One is either this galactose metabolizing gene will be integrated into the bacteriophage DNA, or this biotin synthesizing gene will be involved into the lambda phage DNA. So let's look one more diagram. As I told you, there are some important genes which are present inside the lambda phage DNA. So they are having the same sequence. The sequence is actually from here you can see N, and before N actually here it is C3. So let me annotate this also. So this is here C3. Actually you need to write in this fashion, C3. N, here is C1. So you can write C1. C1 crow, C2. So there are some important genes which are present here in this region, and there are some important genes for head and tail region which are present on this side. So these genes are not important, so they will come in either way, means either in the along with galactose or in second. So please look here, I'm trying to show you something. So as I told you, there are two possibilities when this will excise out of this bacterial chromosome. This lambda phage DNA will either include galactose gene or the biotin synthesizing gene inside it, because these two genes are having more chances of being uptaken by the lambda phage DNA because they are present left and right side of the integration site, right? But what will happen, because the size of the size of viral genome is very limited. The head region is having the space which can include only, which can accommodate only this much of DNA. So which can accommodate only this much of DNA. So here it is shown that it is 48,502 base pair long DNA in lambda genome. Okay, so it can accommodate only this much of DNA. So what will happen? Either it will lose some of the viral genes. So when it will include the galactose metabolizing gene from the bacterial chromosome, it will lost some of the genes, for example, for tail and another genes, okay, which were very importantly required for further infection process. If it will include the biotin synthesizing gene, it will lost integration and excision genes, which were actually some of the important genes in bacteriophage DNA. So either way possible, there are two possibilities, but either it will lose the head and tail genes or it will lose the integration and excision genes. Okay, so you need to remember this. So first of all, we will discuss the theory portion. Then I will tell you again what actually he is uh, going to establish. So specialized transduction differ from generalized transduction in several ways. It is mediated by specific temperate phases. So first of all, we have included here a temperate phase, for example, lambda phase. So lambda phase is a temperate phase. There are two type of phases. One is temperate phase, one is virulent phase. So virulent phases are the bacteriophages do which will infect a bacterial cell. They will make copies of their DNA and ultimately lyse the bacterial cell, right? Whereas the temperate phases are phases which will have no hurry to replicate their genome. First of all, when they infect a bacterial cell, they will integrate their genome, their DNA inside the bacterial chromosome that is called as prophase. And then they will make, for some generations, actually, they will remain integrated. And then after some time, when the DNA is copied, they will excise their DNA out of this bacterial chromosome and then pack uh, the bacteriophages and then do the lysis process. Okay, so the temperate phases are required for specialized transduction, and only a few specific donor genes can be transferred to the recipient bacteria, as we have seen either galactose or biotin synthesizing gene in case of E. coli. Specialized transducing phases are formed only when lysogenic donor bacteria enter into the lytic cycle and release the phase progeny. That's fine. There are two distinguishing characteristics of these specialized are also called as restricted transduction, because only the restricted genes are able to uh, move from, able to transfer from one bacterial cell into some other bacterial cell. First of all, the only bacterial genes that can be transduced are those which are very near to the site of prophase integration, right? So where prophase is actually being integrated, so the genes which are present in the close proximity are able to transfer from one bacterial cell into some other bacterial cell. For example, only site at which the lambda phase integrate into the host chromosome of E. coli is between the genes of galactose fermentation, that is GAL, and biotin synthesis, that is bio. So if the prophase disintegrate abnormally, please note abnormally, from the host chromosome, only the galactose or bio genes could be transduced. So there is a possibility that either galactose or biotin synthesizing gene or the galactose fermentation gene will be transduced. It results from the defective excision. So if it is abnormal, only then it can uptake this galactose or biotin genes. Otherwise, if it is normal, so only the bacteriophage DNA will come out of the bacterial chromosome normally. So the specialized transducing phases contain both host and phage DNA linked in one single DNA molecule. They are rare recombinants which lack part of the normal phage genome and contain part of the bacterial chromosome located adjacent to the prophase attachment site. Now, formation of the lambda gal and lambda bio. So as I showed you two diagrams in the next page. So if it is making this gal or bio, because it is including both the lambda DNA and the DNA from the bacterial chromosome. So this is either called lambda gal or lambda bio, because it is a combination of two different DNA from two different organisms. One is from the DNA, one is from the virus, the lambda phage, and second is from the galactose gene or galactose fermentation gene from the E. coli chromosome. So either it will make lambda gal or lambda bio. Now we will move further. Now you need to note these few lines because they are very important and they are actually telling a lot of things which is actually happening inside when this is happening. Okay, so lambda gal particles lack a tail gene. So as I told you, either if it is taking the galactose metabolizing gene or this fermenting gene, galactose fermenting gene, it will lack the tail genes, right? And sometimes the head genes, even sometimes because the head genes are very close to the tail genes, so even it may lose some of the head genes also. Both of which are located at the right end of the prophase. So when this prophase is integrated into the bacterial chromosome, it is present over the right hand side of this integrated chromosome. Now the second case, if it is taking this biotin synthesizing gene, these particles lack genes from the left end of the prophase, which are actually the integrase or the excision genes, which are required for the excision process. So suppose if they are not present, so now you can think of what can happen. It will not able to integrate, either not able to excise itself, right? So the number of missing phage genes depend on the position of the cuts that are generated the particles. So it is always dependent and it may vary from one case to some another case. That little variation may happen. It is depend upon the cut where it is actually produced to make the particles. The head and tail genes are very essential. So the first case, lambda gal, transducing particles are unable to perform the lytic cycle, and thus they are not able to make the plaques. Now the question is, when the plaques are formed. Plaques are formed when there is lytic cycle, because when there is lytic cycle, the cell will lyse and a clear zone will be formed, and this is known as plaque, which is present over the lawn of bacterial cells, lawn of bacteria. Because they are not able to make the plaques, because they are having they are not able to perform lytic cycle, therefore they are called defective, and then they are denoted further as defective gal. So first of all, we denoted them as lambda gal. We have put one more letter D here because they are defective. So you need to remember they are defective. If the bacteriophage lambda is infecting the E. coli cell and it is uptaking the galactose fermenting gene, so they are defective because they are not having the head and tail genes. Mostly they are not having the tail genes, but in some cases, in few cases, they are also not having the head genes, capsid forming genes. So the genes missing in the lambda biotransducing particle are not essential for the lytic growth. Therefore, it will be very normal and it will produce plaques, usually plaque forming. This is the second case. So in case of or biotin synthesizing genes, the fast particles are plaque forming. They can lyse the cells and therefore they can make the plaques and are therefore called. So first of all, we call them lambda bio, but we are putting P here because P for plaque forming and D for defective, right? So P stand for plaque forming, D stand for defective. So there are two terms we have learned from this text. One is, so move to the diagram, you are better understand from here. So because this is a prophage, so suppose here up to here, and it is having this black colored region, which is actually the integration region, and this is called as, because integration is a result of POP dash and BOB dash. I will tell you what is POP dash and what is BOB dash, right? Right. So first of all, this is lambda DNA, the red colored segment which I showed you from here up to here. This is lambda DNA, which is coming from some virus, right? And it is integrated inside the bacterial chromosome, so it is called as prophase. Prophase. So let me write prophase. So this is prophase. Now, there are two possibilities when it will excise itself from this particular chromosome. So because if it is abnormal excision, so it can include the galactose fermenting genes or biotin synthesizing genes inside the lambda DNA. Therefore, it is called lambda gal or lambda bio. But because if the lambda gal is formed, it will lose some of the tail genes, some of the head genes, and therefore, if it lost the tail and head genes, which are actually required for the transformation process to make the lysis, it will not able to lyse the bacterial cell, right? So if if it infects some other cell, it will stably integrated inside the bacterial chromosome, and it is not able to make the plaques over bacterial loan. Therefore, this particular type is known as, so I'm writing it here. So this is lambda because it is having the lambda DNA, and this is defective. So lambda defective gal, lambda D gal, right? Whereas because it is having head and tail genes, but it will lose some genes which are not essential for lytic process. Therefore, they will lyse the cells and will make plaques. So these are plaque forming. So we will write them lambda E bio because this will make the plaque. Or there is a trick to remember this. You can write BP that is biotin is actually biotin synthesizing gene or bio, they are plaque forming, right? So ultimately, if they're plaque forming, the second one will be not able to form the plaques, therefore they will be called defective. So this is how you will remember this. Now, let's discuss this process in more detail. So there are two sites, the sites which are present over this phage DNA or the bacteriophage lambda DNA is called POP dash, these are called BOB dash. So because they are homologous sites, so homologous recombination will take place and they will be integrated inside this. So now the two type of sites will be generated. These sites which are here, they are called as attachment site L. So as you see, they are at sites. So you can call them at P, you can call them at B. So let me annotate this for that you so that you are able to understand this more clearly. So this is at, or you can write same at P. These sites are called at B. I hope you are able to understand. P for phage, B for bacteria, right? Then there are sites which are produced in the after integration of this lambda DNA. The two types of sites, this is called as at L because they are present left hand side, and this is called as at R, right? So the four sites, one is BOP dash, BOB dash. After integration, they will make at L and at R. And if you need to ask what are these sites, so this is called BOP dash dash, and this is called as POB dash. So we have learned one more thing from here. So these sites are called attachment site of phage, attachment sites of bacteria. When they will be integrated, the lambda DNA will have two ends, and these ends are called, left hand side is called at L and right hand side which is called at R, right? And this is can be denoted as, because there is so let me draw this also, because there is homologous recombination between these two, so that it will make BOP dash and POB dash, right? So after integration, they will be written like this. I hope this is clear. If not, please ask me so that I can reveal it again. Otherwise, I will move further. And one more question which can be asked from here, and you need to remember this integrase sorry, which is used by the lambda phase integrase is tyrosine recombinase. Tyrosine, you know, amino acid, tyrosine recombinase has been asked actually. So the integrase which is integrating this particular phage DNA inside the bacterial chromosome is a tyrosine recombinase. There is a query. No. Fine. So if it is clear, I hope you are able to get something at least out of it, and then we will move. There are other students also, Likita, Anchal, Ankit, Priyanshi, Shivani. If you have doubt, please ask me. If you will not ask, you will not able to understand the fact what we are discussing. So it's completely okay if you give a wrong answer or if you are having a query. Okay. हाँ यार, कुछ कुछ लिखते रहा करो ताकि मुझे या ये रहे कि हाँ तुम क्लास में ही हो, नहीं तो मुझे लगता है कि Kabhi I feel like you left me alone. I'm teaching you and you put your phone and you are sleeping somewhere. All right. So we have discussed this lambda d galact. So you are able to get this now. This is defective, and the biotin synthesizing gene is actually a plaque forming. So you will write P here. Now, lambda D galactose, that is actually gal defective one, transducing particle lack the Faz genes required to grow lytically. And then how they're formed? This is a question. So the transducing particle is produced by aberrant excision from a normal prophase. So it was normal prophase, but if there is an aberrant excision, some abnormal excision, so it will produce this type of particles. So even a normal prophase can produce these defective particles, right? So the prophases contain all of the essential genes and hence the necessary gene product, head and tail proteins are still present in the chromosome. They're present in the chromosome, but initially producing the defective transducing particle is not a problem. But if there is a deficiency of the essential gene products, then it will create problem. When this transducing particle infect a new cell, so it will co-infect with some other virus. So if the bacterial cell is double infected, means the two virus at the same time is infecting the same bacterial cell. This is double infection. With a wild type bacterial lambda phage, and there is a second one that is called defective gal phage. If both are infecting simultaneously, then because this is defective, but this wild type lambda phage is having all the genes, therefore the wild type phage can supply the function missing in defective phage. But because what was missing in defective phage? Some of the tail genes, some of the head capsid coding genes. So these capsid coating genes or the coat genes are absent in the defective phage, but they will be supplied by this wild type phage. And the progeny will contain about equal number of both types. So wild type lambda phases and defective phases. And because progeny contain equal number of both the types, and then again, if there is double infection, so actually it will not able to infect some phage, or if it is able to infect some phage, it is not able to lyse that particular bacterial cell. But if there is a double infection, some normal wild type lambda phage is able to infect the same bacterial cell in which lambda defective galactose phage is also integrated. So it will help in the lysis of that particular bacterial cell, and these defective particles will also reduced. So that's how they are produced. They are always produced with the help of some normal wild type lambda phage. Now, specialized transducing phases are formed by aberrant excision of lambda lysogen. Very rare event compared to the normal excision via recombinant between the. So, so actually, this is not a very common process. This is a rare process, very rare event when this aberrant excision is actually happening. Is in comparison to normal excision via recombination between AT-L and AT-R. Now you are able to get this left and right attachment sites, right? So when an aberrant excision initially occurred, it yield less than one specialized transducing phase per. So it is showing that less than one specialized transducing phase per 1 million wild type phases. So you can note the difference. Out of 1 million, out of 10 lakh phases, you are getting only one or less than one specialized transducing phase. Thus, this lysate is called low frequency lysate, LFT. This is also called as low frequency lysate. And if this specialized transducing phase co-infect a new host together with wild type phase, this is called dilysogen. Dilysogen is if this low frequency phase is co-infecting a new host, some E. coli cell, together with the wild type lambda phage. So a dilysogen will result because induction of the dilysogen yield a lysate containing 50% specialized transducing phases and 50% wild type. What will happen? Now the specialized phase will be produced at high frequency, about half. So they are 50-50. So you can see the difference when they are producing less than 1 out of 1 million wild type phases. If there is a dilysogen will result if there is a co-infection of this low frequency phages with some wild type lambda phage, and this time they will produce 50% transducing phages, 50% wild type phages, so 1:1. And this lysate is then known as high frequency transducing lysate. This dilysogen is high frequency transducing lysate, is called HFT. We have discussed the differences yesterday also, so let quickly go through them. We have seen the generalized transduction as the transduction in which any random fragment of DNA or the bacterial chromosome can be transferred from one bacterial cell into some another bacterial cell. Generally, this is actually happening with the help of some virulent phases. Okay. Or when these temperate phases are showing lytic cycle. But the specialized transduction is different because it is always involving the temperate phases, occurs during the lysogenic cycle of the temperate phases, right? Because during this cycle, the bacteriophage DNA that is called prophage will be integrated stably inside the bacterial chromosome. Phases penetrate the bacterial cell and enter into the lytic cycle, this lytic cycle, but here they are showing lysogenic cycle, right? This is the main difference between the two. Viral DNA begin to replicate immediately after the bacterial into the bacterial cytoplasm. So there is no gap. But here, after integration, the DNA and the prophage, they will replicate later, means after some time, they will having some gap period. Any bacterial gene are randomly packaged into the phage particle, but here in the specialized type or in the restricted transduction, only the adjacent genes which are present in previously incorporated viruses are packaged into the new phage particles. For example, galactose fermentation gene or biotin synthesizing gene. If these new phases have no viral DNA, as we have seen that when these phases are assembled inside the bacterial cytoplasm, they can uptake some of the fragments of bacterial genome. Therefore, they do not have the viral DNA. This is very, very important. You need to note this line. So in generalized transduction, when it is happening, double-stranded DNA is of bacterial origin, not from the viral DNA. Some new phases have actually both the viral and bacterial DNA. Therefore, we are giving the name lambda gal or lambda bio because they are having both viral as well as bacterial DNA. 6, the donor bacterial genes are incorporated into the chromosome of new bacterium. Right, so they need to infect some new bacteria. But here the donor bacterial genes are incorporated into the chromosome of new bacterium together with the genome of transducing phage. So both the genomes, actually one is coming from the bacteria along with the genome of transducing phage, which is actually the which is showing the lysogenic cycle or temperate phage, will be integrated stably for some time. And this is this integrated phage genome and bacterial chromosome is actually able to transform the phenotype of that particular bacterial cell. Now we have noticed the two terms. One is called dilysogen and one is called, one more term actually we have seen here. So this is called as double infected cell. Shivani is having any queries. Can you please explain the dilysogen part again? Okay, so that's what I'm doing actually. So I want to note these special terms. That's why I call these terms multiple times. So we have noted two terms. One is called double infected cell. Okay, double infected in the sense the two virus, one is defective and one is the normal wild type phage is infecting the same bacterial cell, right? Dilysogen is when initially you infect, or in nature there is infection which is infecting the E. coli. So this lambda phage is normally showing the correct excision and it will be removed normally. But there is only chances of doing this is less than 1 out of 10 lakh, that is 1 million. And therefore this is called low frequency lysate, because there is only very low frequency of formation of these aberrant phases particles. Now if suppose once it is formed, this aberrant phase is formed, if the specialized transducing phase co-infect a new host together with a wild type phase, as we have studied earlier, double infection, a dilysogen can result. Dilysogen will be actually, it will give rise to two type of phages. Dilysogen means it will, when actually the lysis will take place, it will give rise to two type of bacterial phage particles, bacteriophage particles. One will be specialized transducing phases and one is wild type normal phases. So actually it is showing that half will show this, half will show this defective the lambda fast DNA packaging, right? So then this is called high frequency lysate. Now there is third term, that is co-infection. Sorry, co-infection, not co-infection, co-transduction. Co-transduction. Now please do not correlate this term. This is not, the co-transduction does not mean that the two phases are infecting the same cell simultaneously. But co-transduction is actually if the two genes are transferred once upon a time. So during transduction, there is maximum size of DNA segment that can be packaged by the bacteriophage. For example, I showed you the lambda phages having 48,502 base pairs. So it can uptake 48 kb or 48.5 kb of bacterial or the total DNA. It cannot take beyond this because that cannot be packaged inside the head region of the bacteriophage or virus, right? So if two genes are close enough that they can be present over the same fragment along the chromosome, a bacteriophage may package a single piece of chromosome that carries both the genes. And this process is actually called as co-transduction, when it is having more than one gene simultaneously, and transfer that piece of DNA to the another bacterium. So actually we were studying either it is carrying the galactose metabolizing gene or biotin synthesizing gene. But suppose if these two genes are very closely present, they are present in close proximity over this bacterial chromosome, then there is a chance that both the genes can be transferred from one bacterial cell into some another bacterial cell simultaneously. This phenomenon is called co-transduction, right? The likelihood that the two genes will be co-transduced depends upon how closely they lie. So always depend कि वो कितना एक दूसरे के नजदीक हैं. If the two genes are far apart over bacterial chromosome, they will never be co-transduced. So simple सी बात है भाई, अगर वो दूर दूर present होंगे तो वो कभी भी co-transduce नहीं हो सकते, because the bacteriophage cannot physically package a DNA fragment that is too large. अगर बहुत बड़ा DNA होगा तो वो उसके head region में accommodate नहीं हो पाएगा. Therefore it is very this is not probable that large DNA molecule can be transferred from one bacterial cell to some other bacterial cell via some bacteriophage. So the co-transduction can also be used to map the genes. Now, what is the benefit? It is generally used to map the genes. If the two genes are present together, they can be co-transduced. Mapping of genes by this process of co-transduction is based upon the fact that they are closely present to each other, and there is a greater probability if they are present close to each other. That is, the frequency of co-transduction is inversely proportional to the distance between the two genes. Hope you are able to understand this. This line is on nothing, but it is telling that the distance is inversely proportional to the frequency of co-transduction. Simply, if they are having less distance, the frequency will be more. If they are having more distance, there is less chances of their co-transduction. So the frequency will be less. Then there is a formula by which you can find this out. So this is the co-transduction frequency. C is equal to 1 minus D upon L, where D is actually the distance between the two genes. So it is actually showing this relationship D upon L. And if you put a cube here, so it will give you the frequency value here. Now the question is, what is L? So L is the total length of the fragment. Okay. So C is the co-transduction frequency, D is the distance between the two genes, and distance between two genes is actually measured in minutes. L is the size of the transducing fragment. So the fragment which is being transferred from one bacteria to some other bacteria, this is the size of that fragment. You need to do D upon L whole cube. Okay. So that's how you are able to calculate this frequency in percentage, right? Because both are in minute, therefore they will cancel each other, and 1 minus this cube will be your frequency. Suppose there is a problem, consider the three genes A, B, and C, for which the frequency of co-transduction determines the two-factor process. One is AB. So the probability that AB will go together is 90%. The probability that AC will go together is 33%. The probability that BC will go together is 42%. So I hope you are able to understand this, that they are telling us that A and B genes are very close to each other, therefore they are having more frequency, because this is inversely proportional to the distance. If the distance is less, the probability will be more. Then B and C are close, and actually A and C are distant, therefore they are having less probability of co-transduction. The values indicated that the B is closer to A than C, and the mathematical formula can be, we can map the distance like this. So the first question is, how can be mapping done by co-transduction, and second is size calculations in minutes. Okay, generally size, if you are asked with this type of questions, frequency, so generally you have some basic information given. So only then you can calculate the frequency. So this is your first question, answering your first and second question actually. The first question is how to map the distance between the two genes, how to map the genes. So if you are having a segment of DNA and you are having many genes present over it, for example, A, B, and C, that's what actually he is telling by this example. So suppose A and B is having 90% frequency. So it is showing that they are closely present with each other. And then there is some gene C. So the BC is 42%, means the distance between B and C is less, and AC is 33%, showing that they are present far apart. So it is giving us two informations, that A and B are closely lying, therefore the frequency is more. B and C are also closely lying, not very much, but less than this, because they are having 42% frequency of being co-transduced. So they can be put it like this. And AC, because they are distantly present, therefore they are having the least probability of co-transduction. So the two things we are able to analyze: one, the distance between the genes which are present over bacterial chromosome, suppose this is a bacterial chromosome, and the order of genes which are present over bacterial chromosome. So what will you do? Each time you will infect the bacterial cell with some bacteriophage, and then you will analyze for the presence of these genes which are transferring from one bacterial cell to another bacterial cell, right? So not only the distance, but also the order you are able to analyze by this approach.
सर
Yes.
सर मुझे ये एग्जांपल क्लियर है, मुझे ये क्लियर नहीं हो रहा को ट्रांजैक्शन जो प्रोसेस है उसमें डीएनए का इंटीग्रेशन होगा बैक्टीरिया में, तो मैपिंग कैसे कर सकते हैं?
Okay, so you are confused with this, that how we will map the genes, right?
यस.
But you are able to understand this particular example, right?
यस सर, इट इज़ क्लियर.
Then why you are confused? Because the same example is for the is given to tell how this mapping is being done to analyze the gene order and the distance between the genes. Okay, so for
Sir,
this, no problem. I will give you another example if you are not able to understand it, right? So in the last example, as we have seen this,
okay.
so this is actually this is not the appropriate example because this is here showing that this is specialized transduction, right? But whenever there is a generalized transduction, then I showed you this particular diagram, right? So this bacterial cell A, this is a bacterial cell B. What will we do? We artificially infect this bacterial cell A with some bacteriophage, which is specific for it. For example, P1 for E. coli and P22 for Salmonella. Then what will be next? When this will integrate, this will release its DNA into the cytoplasm of bacterial cell, it will lead to the fragmentation of the bacterial chromosome. Now, uptake of during assembly, there is uptake of some random fragment inside the bacteriophage. Suppose it is able to uptake this particular fragment, right? So this fragment is here. But this is not only the case because here they are showing only 4 bacteriophages. It can happen that some other fragment can be uptaken by some other, for example, this is blue and this is being uptaken by this particular bacteriophage, second one. Some other fragment will be uptaken by some other bacteriophage. So we have chosen this and this will be uptaken by this particular bacteriophage. So now, when these bacteriophages will be coming out after lysis of bacterial cell and they are infecting some other cell B, right? So now we will not only they will infect this bacterial cell, they will integrate these gene fragments which they have uptaken from the bacteria A. Then if they are integrated into the bacterial cell B, they are showing that particular gene expression into that particular bacterial cell. So once they are able to integrate their fragments into this bacterial cell, then I'm having one more diagram. Actually, I need to move. So they will either show abortive or complete transduction. If they are able to integrate themselves, then they will change the bacterial phenotype differently. Then we can analyze the genes for what product they are encoding, and therefore we are able to apply this particular approach, whatever we were discussing in that particular example, right? So in this example, whatever we have discussed, this is the last step. By this approach, then we can analyze the gene order and distance between these two genes. Once we are confirmed, once we are found that the genes are uh, transferred from
सर
one bacterial cell.
डायग्राम विजिबल नहीं हो रहा.
Okay, so you are having some internet problem on your side, I think. Are you able to follow whatever I told? And Trishla, listen,
नो
we were
सर,
discussing.
डायग्राम विजिबल नहीं हुआ. आपने जो एक्सप्लेन किया ना, वो किसी को विजिबल नहीं हुआ है.
Oh, right. So again, I'm telling, no problem.
ओके.
So I was discussing that, suppose wait 1 minute, actually I need to zoom out. Okay, fine. So we have discussed this particular diagram, right? So I was telling during mapping of genes by the same approach, we need to infect a bacterial cell with some bacteriophage. and each time we will take some specific phases, for example, P1 for E. coli and P22 for Salmonella, and like this, right? So these are specialized phases. So this time what will happen when this bacteriophage will release its DNA into the bacterial cell, it will make copies of its genome. At the same time, the bacterial genome will be disintegrated, fragmented, and these fragments are then taken up by the bacteria when it is undergoing assembly process in the bacterial cytoplasm. So what I was telling, wait a minute. So I was telling that suppose they are having different fragments, and here they are showing only 4 bacteriophages, but this is not the case, because bacteriophages are, or the viruses are having small size when compared to bacteria, and therefore they are present in hundreds or even in thousands copies inside the bacterial cytoplasm. So it is possible that the several fragments can be uptaken by the bacteriophages. Suppose this fragment is uptaken by this particular bacteriophage, then some other fragment, I'm giving some other color. So for example, this is uptaken by this particular bacteriophage, and so on. Let's take one more. So suppose this one. So I was telling that because there are large number of bacteriophages are being assembled inside the bacterial cell, वहाँ पे बहुत सारे bacteriophages हैं जिनकी assembly हो रही है bacterial cell के cytoplasm में, और क्योंकि fragment भी बहुत सारे हैं bacterial chromosome के, therefore there is a chance that several of these fragments can be assembled inside the bacteriophages, and when they will release out of bacterial cell after lysis of bacterial cell, then they will infect, they will lysed, and they will release, and they will infect some new bacterial cell. Okay, so when they are infecting a new bacterial cell, then these different segments of bacterial uh, chromosome will be integrated into the bacterial genome, new bacterial genome. So for it, actually, we need to look another diagram. So I'm moving from here. So, okay. So as we have seen 3 different colors, now suppose this one is coming here. So this is actually like this, right? So this DNA fragment is coming from the bacterial chromosome. And then this bacterial, either there are 2 processes, either abortive or complete. So either it will remain like this, or it will be integrated inside the bacterial chromosome. So now, because it will show some different phenotype once it will infect the new bacterial cell, and the genes which are present over this particular fragment, suppose I'm taking this out, this is a fragment, and now suppose the same genes are present which we were discussing. So suppose this is a gene A, this is a gene B, and some gene C. Now you can remove this particular fragment, and then you can analyze the distance between the different genes which are present or co-transfected, co-transduced, and the distance between them and their order, in what order they are present. So I hope there is an example also. Not for this, actually they did not given any example, but okay. Is this understandable?
सर आपने जो अभी एक्सप्लेन किया वो क्लियर हो गया। अब जैसे यहाँ पे ABC जीन्स प्रेजेंट हैं, तो हम ये रिकॉग्नाइज कैसे करेंगे कोड ट्रांजैक्शन में कि ये A यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट होगा कि B यहाँ प्रेजेंट होगा? जैसे मैपिंग में क्रोमोसोम वॉकिंग के थ्रू भी हम
फ्रीक्वेंसी से
पता कर लेते उसमें।
Listen. You are confused because we will recognize them, their distance and their order by the frequency data. So we need to calculate the frequency of each gene, which are co-transduced. And then depending upon this frequency data, the percentage data, we will determine the distance between these two genes.
सर जो दो फ्रीक्वेंसीज बताइए हाई एंड लो वो फ्रीक्वेंसीज से पता करेंगे
No.
तो विच
You
फ्रीक्वेंसी
are
डेटा
okay. Let me ask other students also. Are you able to understand, or you are having the same problem Trishla is having? So if only one student is facing this problem, I will explain it later. Otherwise, I will explain it again. So the two frequency, high frequency lysate and low frequency lysate, these are completely different terms. These are not, there is nothing related to the frequency we have calculated. So the frequency we need to calculate is this frequency. So this is the frequency of co-transduction. And actually, I'm giving the same example again and again because if I give some new example, you will be further confused because here they have already given the frequency of co-transduction. Suppose there are two genes, A and B, they have shown the frequency is 90%. Two genes A and C, there is frequency 33%, B and C frequency 42%. So depending upon this frequency data which is given to you, so this data is explaining the distance and the relative order of these genes.
सर एक्सपेरिमेंटल लेवल पे हमें ये डेटा कैसे मिलेगा ये तो थ्योरेटिकल हो गया बट एक्सपेरिमेंटल लेवल पे डेटा तो हमें खुद जनरेट करना होगा ना
Obviously. So we
तो
will make a table
कैसे
like this. Okay. So you are having another level of complexity now. So ask me
सर मैं
this.
एक्सपेरिमेंटल लेवल पे पूछ रही हूँ क्योंकि थ्योरेटिकल पार्ट तो क्लियर है एक्सपेरिमेंटल लेवल पे नहीं आ रहा समझ में
Fine. So first of all, I was thinking like you are confused since if you are asked to solve such type of problems, data should be given to you. But if you are interested in how we will generate these data experimentally, then I will explain it in that sense. Okay. So you need to make a table like this. So you need to do co-transduction each time, and you need to analyze, or you need to see the phenotype of those different bacterial cells in which you are doing the transduction process. Okay. So each time if the cell is having some gene A, it will show different phenotype. If it is having both A and B, it will show both the phenotypes. If it is having gene C, it will show different phenotype. Got it?
यस
So now you will make a table like this, and you try to uh, find the frequency, what is the frequency of co-transduction out of population which you are having, the bacterial population you are having in your hand. So suppose if you are having a bacterial population, so there are different cells which will show different gene expression, different phenotypes. Depending upon the phenotype and their frequency of co-transduction, you will record your data in this form, set A. It is actually for the same, you can correlate this for the same example we had discussed earlier, or you can think of this example, this problem as a new one, because actually here they are telling about 4 genes, right? So you need to calculate, you need to observe, you need to record the phenotype of all the bacterial cells in the terms of their co-transduction. So if A is being co-transduction frequency of A along with B is as given 31%, A with C is 3% only, A with D is 89%. So from this type of, and in a second one, in second experiment, then you have selected for B now, then C, and you can leave one because if you have selected for all the 3, then you can leave D, right? So with respect to B, you need to calculate A, C, D. Then for C, you need to calculate A, B, D, right? So each time you will record the number of cells which are actually showing that particular phenotype or the frequency of their co-transduction, means both the genes in the same cell. Then, for example, if you find that in the first set of experiment that 89% is the co-transduction frequency, that the cells which are having A and D both genes are very much high in number. So you got some number, for example 89. It is showing that A and D genes are very close together, therefore they are co-transduced. The second is A and B. So, and the third is the distance between A and C is maximum, therefore they are showing only very less frequency. If you match this particular data with other experiments also, you will do multiple experiments and you need to note each time. This time you will record for B, select for B, and you will see the co-transduction of different genes A, C, and D. This time also you will see that A and B is showing some frequency 22, C and D is showing some frequency 78, and this way you will find all the frequencies. Somewhere you will find that A and C is having frequency 3, but in other experiment you are having 0 frequency of A and C. Then you can tell like, okay, so A and C are very distant, that they are not able to show the co-transduction at all. Then you will find the order of genes depending upon this experimental data which you have generated by counting the number of cells which are showing the phenotype of genes A and P, either A or C, A or D. So because A and D genes are very close, they are showing high frequency, so you will put A and D together, so order will be A, D, B, and C. The principle involved that is closer the two genes on the chromosome. So the basic principle is, if the two genes are very close, they are showing high chances, high frequency of their coming together in a single bacterial cell. They may be present over the same fragment of DNA or the bacterial chromosome, and they will transform the cell. They will show the type of phenotype in the recipient cell. So the co-transduction frequency will decrease with the distance between the two genes. For example, if the genes, for example, यहाँ पे जो है A and C, they are having maximal distance. So they are having frequency 0 to 3. So you can note these type of data by counting the number of cells and the phenotype you are able to observe. Each time you will get the variations, but overall, depending upon your data, you will find this gene order. So A, D, B, and C. Right? Got something, or still you have the problem? I will explain again, no problem at all. But you need to understand it somehow, okay? Trishla, I thought you are not even able to understand the same. Oh, you got it. तो हर बार क्या करना है, जो experimental data है, you need to record the phenotype of those cells, those bacterial cells, which are showing both the genes. I mean, they are showing the expression of different genes. Depending upon this phenotype, you will note that, okay, that much of cells, you will count the number of cells and you will record the number of genes that they are showing co-transduction, okay? And then depending upon this frequency data, you will find the gene order and the distance between the different genes. And generally, the gene order related question has been asked in competitive examinations, right? So something will be given to you, no worries. As we will see a few examples in conjugation also, because all the three processes, either conjugation, transduction, or this transformation, can be used to find the gene order. So we are running out of time, but
Sir, clear हो गया. Thank you.
okay, right, all right. So, but I'm having one more example. So I hope I'm not able to finish this, but at least I'm able to show you this. Suppose, so here also they have shown one diagram, but this is actually relevant to conjugation. But I'm showing you so that you can understand this transduction. Okay. In conjugation, because timing is very important, therefore they have plotted time versus the frequency of HFR genetic character. But if you do not have the time factor, you can note the number of the genes which are having different. So actually, for example, A is some leucine synthesis gene, B is some lactose metabolizing gene, C is some galactose fermentation gene, right? So you can note the genes and their phenotypes, and if these phenotypes are present, you can write, okay, so which, so the different bacterial cell may have leucine, but do not have lactose or galactose. So you will write A plus, B minus, C minus. Some cells will show leucine, lactose. So you will write A plus, B plus. And some cells will show lactose and galactose. So you will write B plus, C plus, but A minus, right? So now you will compare that how many cells are actually having A, B plus, and how many cells are actually having B, C plus. Then you will find the frequency of their co-transduction, that how many cells are able to transform, or like actually the transformation term in case of conjugation is different, transconjugant, after infection with bacteriophages. Okay, so I think I should stop here, or if you have query, you can ask. So now we are left with conjugation. Actually, we have discussed something from the conjugation in earlier classes also. Right. So as I told you, the third process is conjugation, by which the genes can be horizontally transferred from one bacterial cell into some other bacterial cell. And this process will require some structure called pilus, through which it will make a channel by which some of the genes will be transferred from one bacterial cell into some other bacterial cell. And the bacterial cell, which is the recipient in this case, is known as transconjugant, which is having the integrated segment of the coming genes, or what you call them, exogenate genote, sorry. So the two scientists in 1946, Liederberg and Tatum, have discovered this. Generally, first of all, it was seen in case of F plasmid, fertility plasmid. So if some bacteria is having fertility plasmid, it is able to act as donor cell. And F plasmid is actually having two set of genes. We will discuss them. One is called as DTR, one is called as MPF genes. So a process in which the genetic information from one bacteria is transferred to and recombined with that of other bacteria. In conjugation, direct contact between the donor and recipient bacteria lead to the establishment of a cytoplasmic bridge. And so this is distinguishing feature of this, that there is a direct contact between the two bacteria, which out of which one is donor, one is recipient. So the bacteria which is having F plasmid is generally donor, because this fertility plasmid is responsible for making this pilus structure. A donor ability to determine by the presence of conjugated plasmid, and there are many conjugated plasmid, but actually most studied is F plasmid. Conjugated plasmid exists in both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, although most research have been done over E. coli, and you know E. coli is a gram-negative bacteria. Conjugation also occurs in gram-positive bacteria, but very little is known about gram-positive bacterial conjugation. However, much less is known about the conjugation in the gram-positive bacteria, right? So a recipient cell that has received DNA as a result of conjugation is called transconjugant, as I told you earlier also. Now, the transfer of plasmid is intraspecific. Intra means in the same species. However, many plasmid have a transfer system that enable them to transfer DNA between unrelated species also. But this is very rare. So mostly it is intraspecific type of system by which the two cells will come in direct contact and able to transfer the segments of their genome or the plasmid from one bacterial cell into some another bacterial cell. So if it is actually happening in unrelated species, then this is called promiscuous plasmids. So you need to note this: the promiscuous plasmids are being transferred between some unrelated species of bacteria. Most common is F positive, F negative conjugation system. We have discussed this in our previous classes, in which one cell, F positive is a donor, F negative is a recipient. So once the F positive F plasmid is transferred into the F negative cell, this will also become F positive. So F negative to F positive. So F factor of fertility plasmid is in E. coli is a prototype for conjugated plasmid in gram-negative bacteria, because E. coli is a gram-negative rod. Strains of E. coli with an extra chromosomal F plasmid are called F positive and act as donors, whereas which do not have F plasmid are called F negative, and they will act like recipients. They will receive the F plasmid from the F positive cells. So conjugative function of the F plasmid are specified by the set of 25 transfer genes. So this F plasmid is actually having all these genes. These are called TRA genes, TRA for transfer. And there are two sets of genes. One is called MPF gene set and second is called DTR set. So DTR is actually the DNA transfer and replication set, DNA transfer and replication genes. And MPF is mating pair formation genes. Means this can be divided into two groups, and they are required for the formation or the expression of the sex pilus and synthesis and transfer of DNA during mating, interference with the ability of F positive bacteria to serve as recipient, and so on. So they are having different functions, since there are so many genes, around 25 genes. Now this MPF gene encodes for a secretion system. So MPF, that is mating pair formation gene, they will make this pilus for cell to cell contact, and there is type 4 secretion system through which this is a channel through which the DNA or plasmid will be transferred from one bacteria or the donor to the recipient. Both can pass either through which the proteins or the protein DNA complexes can be translocated from one bacterial cell to another bacterial cell. Pilus is used to establish the contact between the F positive and F negative cells, and this is a product of MPF genes, right? Then there is a second set that is called as DTR genes. These DTR genes are responsible for encoding the proteins that bind to the plasmid DNA at the origin of transfer. So they will encode some proteins. These proteins will bind to the ORI-T. This is the origin of transfer in F plasmid, forming a complex called relaxosome complex. In the previous classes also, I told you that relaxosome complex is found in conjugation. And this relaxosome complex is a complex of proteins which are encoded by DTR genes, and they will bind to the origin of transfer in the F plasmid, right? The key catalytic components of the relaxosome is the relaxase enzyme. So this will create a nick in at the site of ORI-T, because it is having some specific sequences. 11 base pair repeats over this particular segment. So this relaxase produces a nick within ORI-T and becomes transiently attached to the 5' end of the DNA. It will remain bound to the 5' end, and it will help in the translocation of this 5' end from donor to the recipient cell. Right. So the DNA single strand. DNA strand of the plasmid DNA is transferred in the 5' to 3' direction from the donor to recipient. So transfer will always occur in the same order, that is 5' to 3', in which the other processes like transcription and translation is happening. Translation is N to C, but it is very similar to the mRNA, that is mRNA is 5' to 3', right? So the transferred strand is converted to the circular double-stranded F plasmid DNA in the recipient bacteria. Single strand is transferred, but after transfer, it will be converted into double-strand F plasmid, and the F negative cell will become the F positive. These F plasmid can therefore be spread by infection among genetically compatible bacterial populations. A population means the same species of bacteria. So intraspecific, since it is intraspecific, so it can spread by infection between closely related species of bacteria or in the same species. So this is a pilus which is made by some genes which are present over this plasmid, and they will make the secretory system or the pilus. And through this, it will make a cytoplasmic bridge, and one copy of the plasmid, the relaxosome complex, will make a cut, and the one copy. Okay, so one thing is not shown in this diagram. What is not shown is the relaxase enzyme. So when the relaxase enzyme is making a cut in the ORI-T site, it will also remain associated with the 5' end of this particular DNA strand, and the strand will move in 5' to 3' direction. So this will the 5' will go first, and then leading by the 3' end. So the transfer is always 5' to 3', and it is transiently attached. 5' end is transiently attached by the relaxase enzyme, which is creating the nick in the ORI-T site of this F plasmid, right? Finally, it will able to translocate its copy of F plasmid into the F negative cell. After transfer, it will become double stranded, and therefore both the cells are F positive. Should we continue or should we stop here, because it is almost, if you are enjoying the class,